things as genuine and authentic, like you just happen to be there at the right time to catch the real thing.
There's no question that there was biased things taking place. The voting machines that didn't work were sent to counties where it was predominantly a Democratic vote, and the miscount was not handled properly, and the outcome of the election definitely would have been different.
In my junior year of high school, I began organizing protests about President Bush and the war in Iraq. I then borrowed the school's VHS camcorder and started doing interviews throughout Racine, Milwaukee, and Door County. A month after we started organizing the protests, we were shot at with a paintball gun, had eggs thrown at us, and even were physically assaulted. When my high school principal found out about what had happened to us, he had also found out that we were using the school's VHS camcorder. He and the district threatened to sue me if I ever showed any of the footage.
Well, I think everyone assumed in 2000 that it was going to be a fair election in Florida. I don't think there was much hint that it would be unfair, but so many things have come to light now that would indicate that not only did Gore get 500,000 more votes than Bush, but you've got clearly vote fraud in Volusia County with voting machines being tampered with.
Across the street from my high school was the Door County Compass Internet Cafe. It was a hub of political activism ran by this guy, Steve Kastner.
What I'm disturbed about is first of all, seeing that the Supreme Court chose the president, and secondly, that we've got companies with machinery now to elect the president electronically, with software that's controlled and programs that we don't have access to, and tallies that aren't accounted for on paper. So basically, you've got machinery that can now call the election.
You have issues regarding the ballots from overseas.
There's a lot of people that are looking for any of the electronic voting that takes place to also produce a paper ballot as a means of auditing that return. And the biggest thing that happened in Florida was that there were tens of thousands of votes that just did not get counted. And the president was not elected in a fair and square way.
Well, I wouldn't go on record to say it was done unfairly, but it did definitely seem very fishy.
Definitely indict him, at least for the Florida elections. Nothing else.
It was a coup. He broke the Constitution. He circumvented states' rights.
Bush was not elected in 2000, and he needs to be brought to account in 2004.
Oh, he should never have been elected.
No.
It was not an issue that the Supreme Court was even. It was allowed. I mean, they shouldn't have even taken that on.
They should have sent it back to the Florida.
And they admitted that they had no business taking on that particular issue, but they said they do it anyway.
Reminds me of a nice fuzzy golden retriever. That innocent puppy dog look in his eyes.
Yes, sir?
I mean, you know, it's good to say bring them home, but we're fighting the war on Al-Qaeda, the ones that blew up all the 9/11, 9/11, there now. So why bring them all home? How can you fight them?
Well, President Bush has lied to the Americans for the necessariness of this.
You tell me a politician that hasn't lied to the Americans. Name one that never lied. What do you think politics is all about? It's tell them what they want to hear. In other words, you go in for a group and tell your constituents or the people there what they want to hear.
by going there and bombing women and children, we're just going to anger more people into hating America.
We're bombing women and children?
They are casualties of war.
Okay, what do you think happened at 911? You know, in the great big office buildings. How many women and children you think were killed there?
It's gonna break.
Thousands.
Well,
Isn't that what Saudi Arabia is that did it?
Al-Qaeda isn't only in Iraq. President Bush said there were weapons of mass destruction and we haven't seen any.
Not yet, because they're buried. And a lot of them are in Syria. That's what they are.
Well, his brother's going there.
That's good. I hope he has good luck.
Were you in World War II?
I was in World War II, I was in Korea, I was in Grenada, Panama, and Desert Storm 1. I'm a Green Beret, and I know what I'm talking about. So, give it some thought. But anyway, we got to fight it somewhere, and they're all pouring into Iraq. We might as well do it there.
Well, we're all entitled to our own opinion.
Yeah, right.
Have a nice day.
Totally irresponsible move. We had no business invading a country under false pretenses. The pretense was that there was intelligence to prove weapons of mass destruction, where that was all a lie, and the American people unfortunately just watch the news for 20 minutes each day, if that, on TV, and believe whatever is told by Fox News, and it's ridiculous.
Thumbs up or a thumbs down as president?
Thumbs down totally.
Do you think he's doing a good job by any means?
I can't think of anything at all.
And what's your view on the war in Iraq?
Illegal.
Presidential.
George Bush.
George Bush. And are you impressed with the work he's doing?
Yes, I am.
Oh yeah, he lied to us. I think that was more personal than anything else or business. Like, it was nothing about weapons.
To me, he ain't for the low, you know what I'm saying, the low middle class people. It's like, you know what I'm saying, like for the upper, you know what I mean?
He's from a well-heeled background, therefore he's for no big business. And you can tell by some of the policies and some of the things that he's tried to push through Congress, like the most recent overtime laws, which would basically eliminate whole groups of people from qualifying for overtime. I don't think that's right.
I feel like I've been lied to. We go over there to look for weapons of mass destruction and you can't find them. Now you go over there and you take over and our soldiers are dying. They're surrounded by these Arabs that are taking, you know, this Taliban or Al-Qaeda. They're taking shot at us right now. We're standing there. I got family over there. You know, bring them back.
Democrat, but I'll support him.
What did you think about the war in Iraq?
Well,
That if it goes on too long, that it wasn't worth it.
Yeah, all in all, I'm probably in favor of the war in Iraq, but it's dragging on a little too long, so that's making me nervous.
A terrible mistake. It was a waste of both our monetary and human resources, and now we're stuck with it.
Do you see any favoritism in the fact that Dick Cheney used to be the CEO of Halliburton, and now Halliburton is the company we chose to take care of the oil?
I wasn't aware of that.
I don't think that was a very smart move, and particularly since they were no-bid contracts.
Bush is giving all these big contracts to France and companies that he worked with.
Halliburton, the same company that Dick Cheney was the CEO of.
That's right.
You think that's corrupt?
Yeah, it's corruption. You know, if you're gonna go ahead and take over our place, let us know we're taking over. You know, don't tell us we're going over there to find weapons and there is no weapons there.
Like, you know, the rebate checks or whatever, you had to fit up under a certain bracket just to get that. And I didn't feel like that was fair. You know, I mean, it ain't his fault, you know, people born or whatever or whatnot, but you're supposed to be the president of the country. You're supposed to make sure that people in your country is doing well.
I think we got no business there. I think all George Bush wants is the oil. Saddam Hussein or Osama bin Laden, they had a lot to do with the oil refineries back in the 80s when the U.S. was in Iran, and then actually went to Afghanistan, and then from there to Iraq.
It's going like Vietnam. A few here, a few there. I served there in Vietnam. And, It's got to stop. If there's after the oil, there's got to be a different way to come after that. This is my bus.
All George W. Bush wants is the oil. That's all he's after. And he's putting our sons and our daughters in harm's way, and he's having our brothers and sisters of the United States murdered and maimed and killed over his selfishness.
I think it was a necessary war. I think it's unfortunate but necessary. And I support what he's trying to accomplish 100%.
I'm a opinion. I really don't care about the people over there unless they do something that affect me personally or people I know.
He's like trying to buy out the Mideast and trying to make the United States part of the one world government. I think that's what's going on.
I think it's sad that we feel that we have to govern other people, that we have to business companies. I think it's really harmful to the entire world and to children and to not just to the rebels but to the entire world, because it sends a message that killing people is the resolution, and it never was and it never will be.
And nearly every weekend in November and December that year, my friends and I would get together in Sister Bay and hold protest banners and signs and have little demonstrations against the war in Iraq.
Santa! I know what I want for Christmas! Peace!
Big Door County holiday today, towards Christmas. And we're trying to get President Bush impeached because he made us go to war for oil. And that was not cool.
It's not going to convince you. It will.
Hey, President Bush, what did you guys do your campaigning on your own time? You were here, really, honestly. The political part, right?
We live here in Door County.
Whether you live here or not, this card is not the political campaigning. I don't...
That's what America is for, ma'am.
Maybe I agree with them. I don't want anybody to know what I agree with. Well, you know. Enjoy your campaigning.
It's recording with the lens cap on.
Later that day, Ross Zilke and two of his friends started shooting at us with a paintball gun, throwing eggs at us, and eventually getting out of their vehicle and physically assaulting us.
Just peacefully doing something and they're throwing eggs at us.
They're gonna wait till you guys go back.
One of the individuals thought he could get out of the Jeep and physically attack me, but he was quickly outnumbered by the protesters and left. And the protest continued for several hours as we dodged paintballs and eggs.
Be ready!
Egged you right in the face for having political beliefs.
That's correct.
Okay.
And they didn't miss this time. Oh.
Well, thank you.
It's cold.
And at the end of the day, after most of the protesters left, they got out of their vehicle, punched me, kicked our materials, and even smashed an egg right in my back. A couple weeks after we started organizing the protests about the Iraq War, Joey Risch and I interviewed our friend Nick's father, John Nelson. In 1968, John took his film camera to downtown Chicago during the Democratic National Convention. He photographed the protests that were going on outside of the Democratic National Convention and saw a lot of the police brutality that was going on as well.
Wednesday night in particular was just incredible, just head bashing and police chasing people through the park. There was thousands of yippies demonstrating and just madness. So Thursday night happened to be the night then that I realized how much fun it was going to be down there. I grabbed the family car, my brand new camera for Dad and Mom for my 16th birthday, and headed down to the city and just started snapping pictures. I didn't get that many because it was so intense, and you can see like in this picture, the National Guard are lined up on across from the Conrad Hilton Hotel, which is right here, and all the protesters are on the other side of the street, and it was a big face-off. And this is pretty much what it looked like when you're sitting there or standing there on the side of the street across from the Hilton. They have all these buses and barbed wire encrusted Jeeps. This is what you're faced with. Unlike today, there was a lot of people who took a very active role in various demonstrations around the country. There's things in Washington. Chicago just happened to be a melting pot where total violence erupted. And the violence all came from the police. National Guardsmen did not participate in that end of the things, but the police with their nightsticks and their penchant for violence was just horrifying. And the whole country saw it, and and of course it added a lot to the popular ferment against the war that an entire generation was willing to get out there on the streets. And that's that's what we see here. This is a kid who's got a helmet on, and I think I told you guys before, he's holding a bottle because everybody was being tear gassed, and people were going around washing out your eyes if you got tear gas in the eyes. There's a lot of people who were peacefully protesting, but what they were faced with was very unpeaceful results from the police. And you see there were so many people there. It was just intense. Thousands of people, or hundreds anyway, of police and National Guardsmen. It was scary. It was a really, really intense evening. And that's, pretty much my experience with it.
You see similarities between the Vietnam conflict and what's going on now?
What amazes me right now is that it's almost as if we didn't learn anything from 35 years ago. That this happened in 1968, and you would think that not just the protests and how the populace was, to a large extent, everybody was captivated by, either being for the war or against the war. It wasn't like everybody was against the war in those days by any means. But what followed was that ultimately it was a huge failure, the Vietnam experience, and I think what we had all thought is we had learned a lesson about that kind of intervention in other countries where our national self-interest was less about the people and more, say in the case of the Vietnam War, is more about communist containment. Now it's about oil. I think everybody is pretty much in agreement. And our national self-interest is being camouflaged again as being something that doesn't exist. We're there for other reasons, to serve these people. Well, it's clear that's not why we're there, and we're repeating the same mistakes of the past. It's a disheartening experience, I think, to anybody who's lived through both experiences. It's also disheartening that people of a generation are not being more active against the war. I'm just amazed that you guys are doing a great thing, I think, just by, even in a grassroots way, expressing anything. Doesn't it seem to you guys that there's just not this popular ferment of, there should be thousands of people out in the streets right now expressing themselves, and they're not. I don't know if that's because people your age don't feel they can have an impact on the process or what it is, but it's not happening.
Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld plans to send about 3,000 additional U.S. Marines to Iraq. It'll happen early next year.
Soon after the egging incident, I traveled to my hometown of Racine, Wisconsin, and interviewed people throughout the city on their thoughts of President George Bush and the war in Iraq.
I think he's doing excellent. I voted for him. He lied to get us into war.
I think he's a president that done a lot of things that he shouldn't have done. President Bush is sending our men and women over there to get killed, and I don't think it's for the right reason. I look at 9/11, and it seems like the ones responsible for that has been Laden. So why is it that we're over in Iraq? And I would say it's all because of money.
I think he's doing a great job sending all of our young guys out there fighting in Iraq, losing their lives for what?
Warmonger, wasting all our money, want to take my money away, and I don't have that much money to go buy Christmas presents for my own kids over here, but he wants to give away billions of dollars, send it over there.
He is doing what he believes to be necessary, and as far as it goes, I back him
Totally.
Look at the economy right now. I mean, the rich is spending right now. The poor can't even spend. They can't even buy things for their families. A lot of people is unemployed right now. I mean, the economy's bad because of this war. I mean, people right now are scared to shop. Look at the mall.
Because there's no money. Everybody's scared. Everybody's scared. The economy's down. Everything's down.
All our jobs are going to China. They need to try and get some kind of laws into place. You know, how can you remain #1 superpower if your people don't have work, or if you send in everything out of the country? So no, I do not have a very good opinion of Bush or his dad.
I think the only problem is he's trying to finish his daddy's job.
As long as they're over there, I guess we got to support them. And George Bush, I like him for some of the things he does and some of the things I don't. I mean, you know, it's a mixed feeling, but I think he's trying to do his job, you know, best he can.
Did you vote for him?
Yes, I did.
I don't think they should have had that war. I mean, because it was over things that wasn't related to the United States.
I think it's better to take the fight to the terrorists rather than having them here on our home streets.
To me, preemptive war is like talking about committing suicide because you're afraid of death.
They try to make it seem like Saddam is a killer. I mean, he probably did them things over there, but that's their country over there. They need to worry about our country. We got people over here starving, people that's poor, it's cold out here, people homeless, but they worrying about trying to take $87 billion and build Iraq instead of building jobs over here for America.
You know, people are losing their jobs, meaning they don't have health insurance. No, he cares about the rich, his peers. And that's why there's the fight. It's for oil. It's for oil. Money.
I don't really think it's wrong over getting all those people killed. I think it's a war for oil.
Not absolutely necessary, but since we got it started, I feel that we are obligated to finish it to its extreme. Come out one way or the other.
Which should be used in voting, the Electoral College or the popular vote?
I would go with the popular vote.
Say popular vote. I never did care for electoral college.
People should be voting for everything that's going on around here, but they know how to make the ballots, you know, twisting them and turning them like they did 3-4 years ago, made his brother do it.
Do you think his brother, being governor of Florida, helped him to win the election?
Definitely.
The war in Iraq?
I feel that we are not prepared. We haven't been prepared to do what we should do after the war. I don't think they had a plan, and nothing's working right. It's bad. It's very bad. And I feel very sorry for the boys that are over there.
You're supposed to be running it tomorrow?
Huh?
You're supposed to be running it tomorrow?
I don't know.
You ain't got permission from management. You can't run it at all.
Okay, sir.
Not at all.
Congressman Kucinich.
As president, I will see myself as a peace president. And I think we have to change this metaphor of war in our society. We have to quit talking about addressing problems, a war on this, a war on that. We already see this last war was not necessary. I think we're in a new era in the world where we can see the world as one, the world as interconnected and interdependent. The world's waiting for a United States president who's ready to create a sustainable structure for peace. And as president, I will do that. I'll work to eliminate all nuclear weapons and confirm the Non-Proliferation Treaty. I'll sign the Biological Weapons Convention, the Chemical Weapons Convention, the Small Arms Treaty, the Landmine Treaty. America will join the International Criminal Court. I'll sign the Kyoto Climate Change Treaty. And furthermore, in getting rid of the Patriot Act, I'll call upon Americans to bring forth the essential courage which we have in our hearts. My presidency will be about the end of fear and the beginning of hope, about a new hope in America for a nation that can work with the nations of the world so that we can achieve security here at home.
Gloria.
Well, the war in Iraq is just like every other war. It's really bad. It's basically based on false premises, as all wars are usually, and it's a racket to make a lot of people money.
The casualties in Iraq continue to mount. We know that about 535 men and women have lost their lives. As many of you know, I led the effort in the House of Representatives challenging the administration's march towards war in Iraq. Many of you know
Steele, who actually voted against the war, and actually the only one who voted against the Patriot Act as well.
Here we are fighting against weapons of mass destruction so we can have more here. I mean, you know, eventually a larger number of people will figure out that all of our wars are all about doublethink, and the media always helps everybody think the right thing, which is nothing, you know. So hopefully that's going to change, you know.
What are your reasons for supporting Dennis Kucinich?
Because he's the only candidate that's not full of shit, you know.
True.
To put it bluntly, I mean, they're pick and carry like they always do. If you read history, at least read like Howard Zinn's history, what they always do in America is when it gets to like a boiling point, which it is now, like when it was in the 60s, or in the 50s, or in the 40s, or in the 30s, or in the 20s, or every decade when there's a big, they screwed us up so much that people are starting to riot. They always they pick, not us, they pick for us a candidate that is not too rough around the edges so they can kind of tweak things to make people feel like they're voting. The voting really in this country is to keep people from taking over because they feel like they have a voice when they vote, and they do this much, mostly this much. But so they're pick and carry because he's a guy with connections, a guy with money, and I'm sure he's going to be better in general than George Bush because he's not quite as fascist as he is, but he's still going to be working for a major, over the long course of history, fascist scene. Traditionally, the Democratic presidents in this country have been more aggressive internationally.
It's Valentine's Day. People's hearts are open. So when people's hearts are open, they hear what I have to say. And it was nice of you. I got a lot of great responses. Thank you. No, I got a lot of great responses. People want to know that politicians are human beings. That we're not. That we have more than ice and with the heart. And that we have a sense of humor.
Thank you for having us. President Bush said that the protesters before the war would not stand in the way of national security. Do you think they were? What do you think of that? What she said.
I was one of those protesters. So you know, that's what free speech is all about. And when I have the opportunity to debate President Bush in the general election, I'm going to give him a gift. I really am. I'm going to give him an embossed copy of the Bill of Rights. It's going to have his name on it. And I think he'll enjoy reading it.
And as president, you would protect free speech?
Oh, yes.
Thank you very much.
Were you in World War II?
I was in World War II. I was in Korea. I was in Grenada, Panama, and Desert Storm 1. I'm a Green Beret, and I know what I'm talking about.
What do you think of people who protest?
Protest?
Yeah.
They got a right to protest. Why? I think they're great. What do you expect me to say?
No, I mean, that's good that you can, even though they have different views sometimes.
So that's what it was all about, wasn't it?